I did promise that I would do a video of like a memorial for my grandpa about him on the day or later when I found out about his death. But his death also occurred during the last week of my online summer classes. And it was pretty stressful because of the exams that I had to do and the papers and my quizzes, exam quizzes for a couple of my classes that was pretty stressful to do, but I'm finally done with it. I ended probably the 28th of July, I believe, and my grandpa passed away on July 25th. And it was really early, I believe at 4 a.m., around 4 a.m., when his death occurred on Tuesday last week. And my parents got in my room and woke me up around 6:30 in the morning, telling me that Grandpa has passed away. And I want to share like some moments that I had with my grandpa during the time when he was alive. He did live out of town, I believe an hour and 30 minutes away from where I live. And I'm not gonna say the city of where he lives or where I live. Goodness. But some memories of him were in a town that he was living in. And all his life he grew up as a farmer. And one of the memories that I love to, that I remember that I would love to do when my family and I would go to his house for quite a few times. We would go in the garden that was behind the house, and he would plant a lot of strawberries, tomatoes, I believe beans or green beans, and possibly potatoes. But and he also grew some apple trees that were also still in the backyard and on the side of the house. And with what he has grown, mostly with the fruits that he grew, he will make them into jam. And one of my another memory of him is making jam with him. I would help crane it to for getting all of it in a good texture for the jam of, I mean, the what was it? Good texture of the jam, let's just say that. And that was one of the things that I really love to do with him, like to make jam. There was one time that we went to, he came down to where I lived. And these memories were years ago, not very recent. Another memory that I still remember and keep in my heart is that he loves to fish, and we went to my a park that had a pond, and we would fish in there. Yeah, but one like his favorite thing to do is fishing, and I was very glad to spend that moment with him, uh, knowing that I was with him with something that he loves to do, and that was mostly fishing. No, I would like to. Well, I'm not gonna go into more detail, but just wanted to say that in May this year, he was diagnosed with liver cancer. And a few, I would say a year or two ago, doctors had saw like cancer cells in his colon, and they have they thought they've gotten all the cancer out of his colon, but in May, what was left that may have not gone out, I'm not sure. They went to his liver, and that was how that I remember how he developed liver cancer. And one day he was dehydrated and he was rushed to the hospital. Luckily, my uncle was with him during the time, and in the morning, when he was rushed to the hospital, everyone in the family and a relative of ours got into one van and rushed to the ER that he was in. They took some tests. Everything was fine, but he was still gonna be in the hospital for care and for more testing. And also the results would come in the results would take a very long time, I would say. And it's thundering out. And I remember the second of last time that I saw him, my family and I went to his room, and there was a nurse taking care of him, taking some blood. And the nurse said, "Sir, do you have some visitors? Who are they?" And my grandpa said, "Those are my grandchildren. They're my grandchildren." And after hearing that from him, I felt my heart felt heavy for a bit. And we all stayed there for quite a while until we had to go home, because my dad would go to uh, one of the houses that he flips, and he flips houses, rental houses. And no, the last time when I saw my grandpa, it was the most memorable one. My mom, my two siblings, and I, we all went to say hi to him, but I had to leave early for practice, so I drove separate. And when it was about time for me to leave, I went up to my grandpa and I hugged him while he was in the hospital bed. And he hugged me back, and I said, "I love you." And he said, "I love you too." So that really touched me, to hear his voice. A few days go by, and one night, it was very late, I was thinking to myself, saying like, do I want to go back to the hospital and see him again? And the next morning I called my mom while I was at my college for the online school, the online classes. I called her and asked if I can go over to the hospital to see him again. And she said that he's having a hard time staying up. The pain medicine that he's taking makes him sleepy. And he's mostly sleeping. So there's a small chance of you two communicating for a bit, because he would go to sleep. And I mean, I understand that, but I just wanted to hear him again. Sorry if the camera's shaking while I'm recording on my phone. So I hang up and I just started bawling. And the teacher came up to me and asked if I was okay, and I told her the situation. And she says that I'll be praying for you. And I then decided to stop doing my classes for the day and take a break, because I was afraid, not knowing when his time will come. And yeah, on the day of his death, I was really depressed. I didn't do any of my classes on the final week of that day. I didn't do my paper. I didn't start or even look at my paper, even the instructions. Later that day, I called my best friend, because I would keep them updated, because they also know about the situation of what my grandpa is dealing with. So right right now it has been a full week of his death, and this Saturday is his funeral. And before his death, he already paid for his funeral and for him to be believe it's cremated. He already paid for that. And now we're like setting everything up for the funeral. And I know that the next day, which is a Sunday, my family would be exhausted and probably won't go to their church, and I won't probably go to my church. Fun fact, I go to a different church than my family does. And the next day, like after the funeral, we're just gonna be with relatives on his side, and it's gonna be pretty exhausting the next day. I'm gonna say that because we're all going to be together, and he's my mom's dad, and he's my last grandparent. And we are gonna miss him so much. And I also want to say before this ends that this is like an idea that I had of on the day of like my grandparents passing, of when they passed away, I want to do a video like I did with this one, like share some memories, how I was dealing with the death, and like what was happening during that time, because there's like a good year gap of each grandparent. And yeah, that's what I was thinking of doing for my other grandparents, like I'm doing with my grandpa. And I hope that you enjoyed